So first begin by reading a bit of Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. So Lavanga Latika Devi Dasi says, when I first came to Los Angeles, Srimati told me that Srila Prabhupada had said that being in the temple all the time was Maya. Prabhupada wanted us to go out and distribute BTGs door to door, back to Godhead's door to door. I learned from the other devotees how to distribute books. There were so many experienced devotees who knew how, so I just followed in it and became easy. No, I followed in their footsteps. I would say what they'd say and do what they do. Then it became easy. When a person took a book and gave a donation, I could see it was Lord Chaitanya acting. I could see that everything was working under the direction of Krishna's internal energy. Tom Bewdrey had moved from Santa Cruz to Los Angeles, and by associating with devotees like Rameshwar and other book distributors, he soon became a leader. He was initiated in 1972, June, and received the name Tripurari Das. Every day he would go to a supermarket parking lot near the temple and sell a couple hundred copies of Easy Journey to Other Planets. One evening at the University of California at Long Beach, he and a few other book distributors dropped in on a lecture given by a popular yoga teacher, Rameshwar. I remember when they came back, it was the middle of Bhagavad Gita class, and I was giving the class in the temple room. All of a sudden, the door burst open, and they were standing there. Tripurari was in his street clothes, and the girls were in their saris. They just ran into the temple. You could see that something very special had taken place because their faces were glowing. They couldn't even speak. They were dazed or stunned. The whole temple was anxious to hear the news, so I quickly finished the class. Then Tripurari told us that he had just distributed 17 Bhagavad Gitas, the full hardbound unabridged Bhagavad Gitas, in 2 hours. Lila Shakti had distributed 13, Vrindavan had distributed 11, Tilak had distributed 11, and Makhanlal had distributed 9. Nothing like this had ever happened and been done before. We were all completely astonished that anyone could sell so many big books like that. One morning, a few days later, Tripurari was driving down the San Diego freeway to go on traveling Sankirtan when he saw the sign for the Los Angeles airport and spontaneously decided to try it. After selling a dozen big books that day, he realized the airport was wonderful for book distribution. He started going out regularly to the airport and was soon distributing 30 to 40 books a day, sometimes giving individuals as many as 6 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam all at once. Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita ki. Jai. Wow, it's powerful. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to render this service by saying a few things from, not from realization, of course, but from hearing from others and, trying to understand a little bit about Srimad Bhagavatam and the divine words coming out of the mouth of Shukadev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj. I seek the blessings of all you, my seniors, who are here, Prabhupada Pranav Prabhu, Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu, and my senior mothers as well. And, of course, Prashant Prabhu, who is also my senior to some respect. And please do bless me that I can be able to share a few things from these wonderful verses in this nice chapter on Rishabdev's appearance. So the text we're going to be looking at is text 9. As you know, the Sanskrit for this one is in a very, very interesting meter, which probably is unknown to myself or others. So I'll just probably do the Sanskrit and then we can do the translation and purport, the translation together. So Tadyata Balishanam Swayam Atmana Shreya Param Abidusham Parama Parama Purusha Prakarsha Karunaya Sva Mahimanam Japa Vargakyam Upakalya Payishan Swayam Napachita Evetaravad Iho Palakshitaha. So So we'll do the word for word and then translation together. Tat, that. Yata, as. Balishanam, of the fools. Svayam, by yourself. Atmanaha, own. Shreyaha, welfare. Param, ultimate. Avidusham, of persons who do not know. Parama Purusha, O Lord of Lords. Prakarsha Karunaya, by abundant causeless mercy. Swamahimanam, your personal glory. Cha, and. Apavarga Akyam, called Apavarga, liberation. Upakalpayishan, desiring to give. Svayam, personally. Naapashitaha, not properly worshipped. Eva, although. Itaravat, like an ordinary person. Iha, here. Upalakshitaha, you are present and seen by us. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The translation reads, O Lord of Lords, we are completely ignorant of the execution of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the process of liberation, because we do not actually know the goal of life. You have appeared personally before us like a person soliciting worship, but actually you're present here just so we can see you. You have come out of your abundant and causeless mercy in order to serve our purpose, our interest, and give us the benefit of your personal glory called Apavarga, liberation. You have come, although you are not properly worshipped by us due to our ignorance. Purport. Lord Vishnu was personally present at the sacrificial arena, but this does not mean that he had any interest in his own personal benefit. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha, the deity in the temple, is present for the same purpose. Out of his causeless mercy, the Supreme Personality of Godhead presents himself before us so that we can see him. Since we have no transcendental vision, we cannot see the spiritual Satchitananda Vigraha of the Lord. Therefore, out of his causeless mercy, he comes in a form we can see. We can only see material things like stone and wood, and therefore he accepts a form of stone and wood, and thus accepts our service in the temple. This is an exhibition of the Lord's causeless mercy. Although he has no interest in such things, in order to receive our loving service, he agrees to act as he does. We cannot actually offer suitable paraphernalia for the Lord's worship because we are completely ignorant. It was out of his causeless mercy that the Lord appeared in the sacrificial arena of Mara. So let's do the translation together. O Lord of Lords, we are completely ignorant of the action of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the process of liberation, because we do not actually know the goal of life. You have appeared personally before us like a person soliciting worship, but actually you're present here just so we can see you. You have come out of your abundant and causeless mercy in order to serve our purpose, our interest, and give us the benefit of your personal glory, called Apavarga, liberation. You have come, although you are not properly worshipped by us due to our ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Gyana Timirandasya Jnanjana Shakaya Chakshirunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pachayane Nirvishesha Srimati Pashti. Jai Hare Krishna. So this is a very blessed verse. that kind of highlights a few very interesting things. I think that Krishna, in ways, trying to remind all of us. First thing we can get from this verse is Krishna's all-merciful nature. So Krishna is just like filled with mercy, overflowing with mercy. So much so that he sees that our position is one that can't really give him much. In Brahma Samhita, it said, Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam. The Lord is being worshipped by thousands and thousands of goddesses of me. But look at us in our bags of stool, bile, blood, pus, thinking that we can offer something to the Supreme Lord. Verses like these kind of humble us to remember the fact that we are actually reprobates, kind of those who are neglected by godly people. And that's why we're here in the material world, to kind of reform ourselves from that position that we once had of thinking that we're the controllers, we're the doers. And so Krishna so mercifully gives us an avenue by which we can be able to serve him. He tries to cut off false pride. We're discussing yesterday, and Dr. Jayapurabhu was also giving the question of, at times you're distributing a book and you're feeling like, oh, wow, I'm the guy who's, getting this out to other people. But really, there's nothing much we're doing for the Lord. We're not really in a position to be giving much to the Lord. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur usually mentions, in one of his articles, he writes that, who do you think you are to give anything to Krishna? Only a pure devotee can give something to Krishna. So unless you consider yourself a pure devotee, you realize that there's nothing you're actually giving to Krishna. Emphasizing why we're working through the channel of the pure devotees and of our seniors in order to be able to serve the Lord eventually, seeing that that's what pleases the Lord the most. The Lord is giving us an opportunity, and that's, an expansion of his causeless mercy. He's giving us a chance to render some service so that we can get benefited from it. One devotee holding a class at Soho Temple, I know at the Bhaktivedanta man actually, his name is Radha Govinda, an amazing personality, and he was talking about how in the media they were branding different cults. And they were saying that cults usually have like a narcissist, a leader narcissist. And so if you want to identify a cult, then you see that there's this person who's very, very much narcissistic. And in our case, that would be Krishna, in that he's saying, Sarvadaraja mamekam sharanam praja, you surrender unto me, and then I reward you with everything. That could be a little bit narcissistic from that kind of a perspective. But with one who has clear vision, we understand that Krishna is doing this not for him, but for us, because it's only by surrendering unto him that we can receive any forms of benefit, any form of gratification within our lives, because as being, parts and parcels of the Lord, we are naturally pleasure seekers, and we're looking for some form of happiness. And so he gives us a way that we can be able to do this successfully by serving him in his Archa Vigraha form. So yeah, he might be appearing that he's soliciting worship from us, that he's demanding us to serve him, but he's doing that for our benefit. You find many people who, they can speak and talk about how God is, pervasive in their life 24/7, and they're performing so many materialistic activities, but they're still able to see the hand of God. The hand of God is visible, for them. But with us who have probably a much more clear understanding, we know that, we're not able to perceive the Lord with our gross material senses. The reason why even the Lord is appearing in such an Archa Vigraha form is so that we can be able to practice and train on how to transcendentalize our senses. Our senses are still much on the gross plane. And so for someone to be talking about how they're experiencing the Lord with the gross material senses, we can kind of doubt and question, that experience, because as Shastra explains, it's once we've awakened that the vision of the Lord appears to us by his causeless mercy, then we start to see him not with our gross material senses, but with our transcendental senses. And so from there, we can perceive the Lord and engage in pastimes with the Lord. Ultimately, upon leaving this material bodies, we can go back to serve the Lord eternally. We look at doing, like, for example, Pujari service. We're serving the Lordships on the altar, with this bag of stool. We're woken up in the morning, we've taken a shower, but still the friction with our bodies is causing so much sweat. And then we're taking, deodorant to kind of, not disturb the devotees by giving them a foul smell. We're having to brush our teeth constantly. We're having to do all these things. And then we go on the altar and, we're trying to try to dress the lordships, trying to dress the deities with our material bodies, which are, could be quite disturbing for someone who's, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanam, who's used to goddesses of fortune rendering service. So at times I just think, like, really, what am I giving? What am I offering the Lord? But the Lord is tolerating. He's very, very kind. And it's explained by some that just like a mother can be very, very tolerable to their child, and the Lord is being tolerable to us. I remember one time when my younger brother was small, my mom was carrying my younger brother up in the air and was having such a good time. And then my younger brother just decided to, throw up all over my mom's outfit. And ideally, if that happened anywhere else, you'd be like, oh my God, what's going on here? But, mother tolerates. Even if there's a lot of imperfections, mother is so kind and so caring and kind of tolerates. So in the same fashion, that's the way we can understand Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says that the closest relationship that we can understand between that the Lord has for us is the same one that our mother has for us in this material world, where our mothers tolerate a lot of our, mischievous activities from when we're young. I remember for myself, I was a serious pain for my mother throughout my childhood, and probably still am, by me taking to the process of Krishna consciousness without her approval. And she's still tolerating, and she's still kind of dealing with it. And out of love, accepting the situation that, where I'm in, but still obviously trying to persuade me to do some more positive things with my life. So we can see that's the same thing with Krishna. We chose by our own desires, our own curiosity to explore the material world and to kind of lord it. We're trying to lord over the material world, thinking that we are the doers, the controllers. I always have conversations with people, and we kind of get to this conclusion that every time we're living our life, we kind of live our life as if we're in a movie, that we're the main character and the main show. And so we're traversing this movie, this wonderful blockbuster, and everyone's really focused on us. And one time, actually, our mentor was giving us a talk at the manor, and was saying, whilst Guru Puja is going on, the person who's, doing the puja is thinking, I'm so amazing. And then the person who's, leading the kirtan is thinking, wow, I'm fantastic. The person playing the mridanga is thinking, whoa, I'm like the center. It's, the whole thing is revolving around me. And the other person's playing the instruments and people dancing. Everyone is living their life thinking that they're the center of everything. And that's really just how we've kind of trained ourselves with all these millions of lives in this material world to believe that we're the center. So it becomes a challenge and becomes difficult trying to incorporate the teachings of Krishna consciousness to some degree, just because now we're having to get ourselves from not being the main character of the movie, but directing the main character to somebody else who actually doesn't need you. Krishna is saying, I don't need you. I don't need your service. It's like, I imagine the feeling, like if Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu wakes up one morning and gets a letter from Prabhupada Prana Prabhu saying, we're very grateful for your service, but we don't need you anymore. You're indispensable. You can leave. It's a difficult thing, and it crashes our ego because we think we're offering something, isn't it, to the Lord? We think we actually, out of the 8 billion people living in this planet, 0.00001% have actually decided to take to a process that Krishna himself is recommending for purifying us in this age. So we might think, actually, you know what, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well in comparison to the rest. But Krishna is reminding us verses like this, you have come, although you're not properly worshipped by us due to our ignorance. We're still making so many offenses. We're still quite disrespectful. We're still training ourselves. We're in a hospital and we're doctors at the same time. And the Lord is still accepting. He's still accepting all these things. So it's just a manifestation of his mercy. And, to some degree, we are needed to kind of the service, but we're not needed because the Lord can do it all by himself. If he was to decide, I'll come to Scotland and I will convince everyone around this space that I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead and everyone should surrender unto me, he could. Nothing can stop him. He, in that picture we can see over there, he manifested himself into 100 forms so that he could serve the gopis. He married 16,108 wives, right? And in each of their weddings, they all felt the Lord personally there. With Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the same thing. He was going out on Harinam with 4 different parties, and each and every party felt Mahaprabhu there and felt his presence. So the Lord can actually do these things. But why does he give us the opportunity? So that we can be purified, first of all, because for us, it's not the same level of ability, skill, or attributes. We can't just all walk up and convince everyone. And we've all experienced this probably on Sankirtan, trying to, use as many, convincing words to make someone take a book, and spending 30, 45 minutes for an individual who's so enthusiastic to hear everything, they still don't take a book. They still don't give anything. I remember one time I was actually talking about this a few days ago, that I was distributing a Srimad Bhagavatam. I was just doing some small books. I said, let me just pick a Srimad Bhagavatam. And so I got this Srimad Bhagavatam. I was speaking to this lady, and, she was, responding to me very much, like, wow, like, I'm really appreciating this. And then I just decided, okay, here, take the book. And then I tell her, this is donation-based. And so she's like, okay, donation-based, no problem. So then she removes a bunch of coins and she places them in my hand, and I'm seeing it's only 50p. And at first I was thinking, well, no, but I can't get the book back. It's already too late. Because I don't have that ability, to kind of transform someone's heart in that kind of a fashion. That's all Krishna. And that's why when we were reading, and it's nice that we read this beforehand, the Lilamrita, and it's talking about how they felt Lord Chaitanya's presence. Actually, Keshapati Maharaj mentioned to us one time when we went to see him that that feeling you get when you give a book to someone and they give a nice donation is Lord Chaitanya's embrace. So if this is Lord Chaitanya's embrace, just imagine what it would feel to actually embrace Lord Chaitanya in the spiritual world. So with all these things, we can understand really that we don't do much. We are just kind of like dolls that are being played about by the modes of material nature in one sense, and also by Krishna when we decide to take devotional service. And he's kind of guiding us throughout all these aspects of our growth and giving us things that we need in order to intensify our faith and to grow in our Krishna consciousness. But the only prerequisite to be able to do that is our Sharanagati, is our level of surrender, to actually put our hands up and say, I am not really the star of this show, you are, so you and let me experience everything that I can through you, because that's the only way it's happening either way. Even for the atheist who does not believe in Krishna, he's receiving that mercy and that ability to do everything that he is doing from Krishna himself. So us who have the knowledge and are fortunate enough, then can offer our respectful obeisances unto Krishna, and utilize our bodies, our words, and everything. I know Hidvagva Purbi Nam Namaste, the prayers from Lord Brahma, where it says we should just use our mind, our heart, our words, and our body in offering respectful obeisances unto the Lord. And gradually he will give us our benedictions, because it becomes our rightful claim, because we've taken to the process. So actually being given rightful claims by the Lord you don't really deserve, because as I mentioned, we're reprobates. We're actually those who are against the scriptures, those who are against the practice, and that's why we have much forms of life. And the Lord also becomes even extra merciful and brings us his representative, assumes a similar form but works with the same example of what it means to actually fully surrender. And that's Sri Prabhupada, who gave us all the different stages of what devotional service could be, accessed in such a way that we can understand how to be fully engrossed in Krishna consciousness and be able to also see our levels and see where we're at in our spiritual life. And he served as a full example 24/7 up until he left his body. He even showed us what it means to leave the body. And you don't get anything like that anywhere else in the material world. You don't get any place that actually guides you throughout these 4 aspects of life: birth, death, old age, and disease. Who shows you how you should be living your life, in what consciousness. Schools teach us how to earn money, how to become financially successful, how to be street smart. Actually, that it doesn't even teach you how to be street smart, but teaches you how to be book smart so you can earn some knowledge. Then Krishna consciousness comes and teaches you everything: how to actually eat, how to sleep, how to shower, how to interact with other individuals. It gives you the necessary steps that you actually need in learning things in your life. So, it's an expansion of the Lord's mercy that allows us to be able to do this. The other thing that I thought that was quite interesting is in this verse, in the translation, the word avidusham which means of persons who do not know. So I was trying to think where else have I, interacted with this, and I was listening to a few lectures, and there's this prayers by Prahlad Maharaj, where he's also praying to the God directly, and the same word avidusham is used to mean that the one who does not know. And Prabhupada at times would, encapsulate this in the term rascal. So at times when we think of rascal, we think it's a very, very offensive word. But when Prabhupada uses it, actually, Radha Govinda, who's a devotee, was giving a class and was talking about this, that rascal is actually just a person who doesn't know, who's just in ignorance, it was a term used for like a child, such a rascal. He doesn't know what's right, or he would know, but he's choosing not to. And so from this prayer from Prahlad Maharaj, which gave a similar theme, I'll just read the translation. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, is always fully satisfied in himself. When something is offered to him, the offering, by the Lord's mercy, is for the benefit of the devotee. For the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen as to be decorated. The Lord really doesn't need anything from us. And the pure devotee is able to see this with much clearer vision, that there's nothing much that I can be offering to the Lord, but put me in such a position so that I can be benefited from this situation. That's why our leaders, we have our temple president, for example, who, serves as such an example. Because in exalted positions, false pride can be something that can be experienced. We see by how they're able to service for years and years on end, by creating a space where the individuals can, take devotional service and feel at home and feel like they're in a family. That's only coming because of their ability to recognize that they're not the doer. And so the more they let go and they realize that everything's happening for Krishna, then, they become more successful because Krishna is reciprocating with that devotee who's giving everything back to him. Which is interesting because he's reciprocating, but the devotee is just giving everything to him. So it's like, there's actually no need for reciprocation for that individual. There's that verse which talks about, I'm trying to remember the verse, Narayana parasarvena kutashchana biyati svarga pavargana hekeshva pitulyata darshinaha. That for these pure devotees, even hellish planets, heavenly planets, all of them are none different because they're just seeing Krishna and seeing opportunities to be able to end devotional service. So if we've been blessed to this Archa Vigraha form, what's the best we can do? We've been given the Archa Vigraha form, we've also been given the holy names of Krishna. So what's the best you can do? The best you can do, anyone have any suggestions of what the best thing we can do with these things that we've been given? We've been given the Archa Vigraha form, we've been given the Dham. What can we be able to, what's the best thing we can do with it so we can receive the most benefit? Anyone? Grab mercy, yeah. Grab the mercy for sure. That's one thing we can do. Anything else? Anyone can? Learn how to love Krishna. Yeah, for sure. What I got from this was that we can endeavor with these activities as much utsaha, enthusiasm as possible. In Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami talks about the power of the holy name and how the holy name, gives us access to all rasas. The holy name is the most powerful form of the Lord. It's the Lord personally himself. And, just chanting the holy name, even by performing Nama Parad, you can see how much your desires will be satisfied. But now we're here, I'm chanting Nama Parad all the time, but I don't feel like my material desires are being satisfied. I'm seeing the Lord in the spiritual world dancing with the gopis. I'm not having this vision. Probably you guys are, but I definitely am not. So how best can I be able to benefit from something that I'm not really able to experience? It's by doing it with enthusiasm and by having the trust and the faith of the superiors, like Srila Prabhupada, that by following in this process to T and into the level that he's giving, that I can actually experience what is being laid out for me. Kind of like a child, when a child is given medicine, the child takes medicine, it's bitter, it's disturbing, and they can't notice that the medicine is having an effect. And so they'll just keep on, moving. Actually, there was no point to me taking that bitter medicine up until they actually heal later on and realize. So it's the same thing for us. We're probably not able to tell that we're being transcendentalized by chanting the holy name. Mahaprabhu says anyone who chants the holy name once, is considered a pure devotee. He's already in the spiritual plane, and he's already, transcendental. but we can't experience it. Why? Because we're still using our gross material senses. And so the best thing we can do is keep on moving with enthusiasm, and trying to have as much fun as possible in our devotional service. And by the Lord's mercy, He'll give us the vision. I think the word is spruti. Spruti? Wait, let me see if I... Spurti, yes, spurti is vision. And He'll give us a vision. And vision in the Shastras is really termed for, being able to see the Lord within our gross senses. Because our gross senses in itself can't experience the Supreme Lord at all. Because it's only looking for gratification, sense gratification. But with time, the Lord gives us a taste, or a sense of vision with our gross senses that can attract us and give us validation that this is the actual process that we should be taking. So for some people, it's probably an ecstatic kirtan. For some people, it's seeing the Lord Shishi, Koditayama Pushashiki. So some people, they see the Lord, and then it awakens something within them that actually this is what I need to do with my life. Others, they experience it from an ecstatic kirtan. So the Lord will look for different ways to give us this vision based on our qualification, when He feels that He's satisfied enough with our level of devotion. So one way that we can be able to introspect within ourselves is to ask ourselves, are we putting ourselves in a position where the Lord feels that we're qualified to experience Him, that we're qualified to see Him? And I remember Prabhupada Prabhu gave that quote in his class when he was saying, we shouldn't act in a way that we're trying to see the Lord, but we should act in a way that the Lord is trying to see us, because we're making ourselves qualified by detaching ourselves from the material conceptualization of life and actually focusing more on the spiritual aspect of things. And so that should be our focus, working in enthusiasm to serve the Lordships, to serve the devotees. At times, serving the Lordship directly is difficult. Not everyone has a Brahmin thread and can do that directly. But serving the pure devotees as well, hearing from the Vaishnavas and trying to render as much service as possible, something that is a work in progress also for myself, can make us eligible, because the Lord sees that, we're trying our best, and then the pure devotees are recommending us to the Lord. So they're kind of giving like a positive recommendation to Krishna. Because as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, only pure devotees are rendering service unto the Lord. There's nothing you're giving to Krishna. And so you can try to give something to his pure devotee, and then his pure devotee can give us to Krishna. At times when we maneuver the material world, we think that we're okay, that we, like everything's fine, like there's really not such a big deal. Yes, we've understood the absolute truth, we've gotten some understanding of this philosophy, of this knowledge, and so we're just, kind of keeping on trudging on in devotional service, and things will be okay. We kind of are comfortable, or we try to look for situations where we're comfortable. And that is noted to be the Maya Shakti of the Lord that covers us to make us feel comfortable in the material world. A nice picture of a garden can be displayed, with beautiful roses and flowers and things. But the more you zoom in, the more you see that animals are trying to kill each other underneath. These earthworms are struggling for existence, and all these things are going on in the background. And that's the nature of the material world. As Prahlad Maharaj was saying, it's like the reflection in the water. Things are looking beautiful in reality, externally, but in actual reality, it's a big problem. It's a struggle. We're all struggling here in one sense. So we should be having some levels of fear, like, oh my days, this is the material world, and I am not comfortable in this place, and I need to kind of get myself out of it. And that fear is actually, to some extent, positive in the sense that it reminds us of our position. We can get too comfortable even amidst devotional service, where we're thinking that, I'm okay in my position. There's no elements of growth, I can just render my service simply and do all these things simply, and then gradually Krishna will accept. And Krishna will probably give me the vision to see him. But that's not going to happen if we're still covered by the Maya Shakti of the Lord, thinking that we can be comfortable in the material world. And that's why the material world will always be full of problems. People are trying to create good circumstances in the world, trying to advocate for peace, trying to advocate for welfare for all. But the only welfare that can be advocated for people is spiritual life. Because the world is actually perfect in itself. Krishna says that the world is perfect. He made it perfectly. Why? Because it's meant to remind us that this is not our home. This is not a comfortable position for us. as much as we're trying to look for comfort here, it just doesn't work. We think we're comfortable, and then next day we're uncomfortable. You're hungry and you want to go to this nice restaurant, and you think you'll never be hungrier, but then the next day you're even more hungry than the day before. You're never able to satisfy yourself in this material world. And the only way we can be satisfied is if we actually redirect our services to somebody else, to Krishna, to the pure devotees. And by actually giving, we receive more of the mercy. And so we need to make ourselves open to that mercy, open to, receiving the benefits of devotional life. And that's all basically dependent on our surrender and our enthusiasm to actually serve. And that also is dependent on our faith. How much faith do we have that Krishna is right before us, that Krishna is with us, and he's guiding us through every step of the way? How much are we like that kid who's been given the medication and doesn't believe that it's working? So, we need to kind of train ourselves to open our vision in that regard, that we're actually very, very fortunate. We have the Lord with us, and, by rendering service to the Lord in the form that he's given us that we can perceive, then we'll be able to receive the benefits of devotional service in this fashion, and can actually experience what Krishna consciousness is all about, and can serve. Maharaj Nabi and his wife were praying, very, very intensely for the Lord to come, and the Lord comes as Rishabdev later on. And we see that the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually a collection of individuals who are more or less on our consciousness, but because of their determination and devotion and the depth of their devotion, they're able to actually get this reciprocation from Krishna. Otherwise, why would we be reading books on people that we just can't totally relate to at all? But we can always relate to these individuals. Prahlad Maharaj, to some degree, having some level of faith for Krishna, he has just a much deeper level, and in comparison to us, who are probably still, connected to the material energy, still feeling comforts in the material energy. But Krishna puts a situation so that we can understand that we can go deeper in our devotional life, and then be able to eventually experience these things. So these personalities that you find in the Shastras, Krishna gives us stuff on our level of understanding, on our level of comprehension. He gives us things that are beyond our level of comprehension, and gives us things that contradict our comprehension. So at times it's the demons who are actually, the blessed, the ones who are giving advice to like the less demoniac people. It's them who are chastising the angels. It's things that are beyond our understanding. The cosmic manifestation, how things are created. So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us a wide array of all this information. Why? So we can also understand its validity in that it's encompassing everything. And by actually focusing on what's in the Shastra, by connecting with these personalities and their level of depth in Krishna consciousness, it deepens our faith and connection, that we can also become deep in our Krishna consciousness and utilize what we've been given in service, even though we don't deserve it. And, reap the benefits of devotional service, and actually get to experience what it is that we're all so desperate for. So yeah, that's what I had really from this verse. That we should try our best to be enthusiastic in our devotional service, recognize how merciful Krishna is that he's giving us this opportunity, and work our ways from that level. Not be comfortable in thinking that we're comfortable in this material world. Actually feel uncomfortable with the way the material world is, and take advantage of this opportunity. Krishna is giving us, the benefit of his association. He's actually doing us a huge favor, which we're not deserving as reprobates in this material world. So he's come, to allow us to be able to go back to him. And he's so kind, because normally in relationships, when someone tries to, someone disrespects you, you'll never look back at them and, try to render forgiveness. And even if you do, you still keep your distance. But, we left Krishna and we chose to come and explore the material world. And so Krishna's, gradually bringing us back. And he's that partner who's reciprocating our relationship, even when we are discarding him, and he's still with us and he's still protecting us. There's a pastime of a Prabhupada disciple who left the movement. And the devotees, the other disciples of Prabhupada were trying to encourage him and talk to him, but he was very, very much against Krishna consciousness. And, he just left it. He didn't offend the devotees, which was his plus, but he just didn't want to practice. And so he left the practice. And he was still obviously keeping in touch with devotees once in a while. And then when he was about to leave his body, the devotees went to see him. And right before leaving his body, he said, "Oh, Prabhupada, you've come," you know, and Prabhupada picked him up and, you know, hopefully took him back to the spiritual world, took him to join Prabhupada in rendering service. So, you know, we're in a process that actually saves us if we have the faith and enthusiasm. Even if we fail at times, we dust ourselves off and we try again, and we keep on trying to get closer and closer. And then gradually the Lord will see our efforts and purify us as well. So that's what I got from this. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Does anyone have any questions, comments, chastisements, corrections? Would they like to add?
There's just one comment. I was just in the purport, I find it really interesting. Prabhupada is saying that the reason that we worship in the deity form, and the deity is actually made out of wood and stone and marble, is that because that's what we can see. I just thought it was really interesting because, you know, people who are like against idol worship and that kind of thing, they're really like, oh, how can we worship stone and wood and marble? The Prabhupada is making the point that because we can't actually see Krishna, so this is why we worship this.
Yeah. He's coming to a level of perception. It's kind of like, I remember one time a devotee was explaining to a person about like idol worship and what it's all about. And he was saying it's just like a book. This book can be here, and, you know, to each one of us, it can just be a book which has pages and has, you know, forms of paper in it, which has some information. And then for a person who opens the book, this book could become something much deeper. It has a deeper understanding. He can understand the concepts by which the book underlies. And then for one who actually reads the book and tries to imbibe the teachings, this book becomes none different to the principles that he's living in his everyday life. So the deity form of the Lord is like this. One can look at the deity form and think it's just some two pretty dolls that are dressed about every single day and given food. And another person who's deepened their practice can see that actually this is a representation of the Lord that's allowing me to be disentangled from this material world, and that is opening me up to perceiving what the spiritual world is all about, you know. So yeah, Krishna is so kind that he comes to our level of vision and gradually brings us up. At times when we have discussions with people, we're trying to bring them, we're not going to their level to bring them up. We're trying to force them to be on our level. And if they're not on our level, we discard. But our Krishna is so kind that he comes to our level, gives us something that we can understand, and then gives us a chance to go deeper based on that. So that's, yeah, really, really cool. Yeah, that he allows us to see it like that. It's really awesome. Yeah, Jai, thank you. Anyone else have anything that they would like to share? Open.
I mean, you kind of already answered the question. I was just wondering, you know, from the point that we're not really qualified to offer anything to Krishna, how do we not get kind of morose or downhearted or feel like, oh, I might as well not try?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because that's actually even how I would normally feel as well. It's like, okay, so what am I doing? You know, I might as well just go back somewhere else, you know. But that's the mercy of Guru, the mercy of the spiritual master. When Krishna is more pleased when his disciples or his, you know, his pure devotees are pleased. And what pleases our pure devotees when we are trying to use our energy and our life and soul in rendering service for them. So like, you know, I was listening to this Prabhupada disciple. She was speaking in Vrindavan, giving a class, and she was saying Prabhupada's life and soul was to serve the mission of his guru. And so Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to be able to help him serve his guru. And so by us serving as our life and soul, the mission of the guru, then Krishna will actually be more pleased with us and will actually grab us himself, because we're trying to serve his pure devotee. And so we shouldn't really be morose to fully, in the sense that we're not being able to offer anything directly to Krishna, but by serving his pure devotee, Krishna is directing his attention more towards us. And so that's why our service towards the Vaishnavas is the topmost thing. Like they say, when you feed the Vaishnavas, it's like doing 1,000 Ashmaveda yagyas, you know, which is like topmost, like no one can do such kind of a yagya today. But when we serve the Vaishnavas and we serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, then Krishna will be obliged to some degree to, you know, reciprocate with us, because this is his pure devotee. When he was installing deities in different places, Srila Prabhupada, I don't know if it was him who was saying, or somebody else was saying, one of his disciples was mentioning that Krishna was forced to come into those deity forms by force. He had to come because his pure devotee was asking, please come so that you can help these people. Otherwise, he would have refused, but no, he didn't, because he's bound by the love of his pure devotee. So if we actually, intensify our love and faith and connection of Srila Prabhupada, it is something that, I see is encouraged here a lot. We're reading from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita and trying to always connect with Prabhupada as much as possible. Then through that, Krishna will actually pick us up and will actually will reciprocate with us, as we try to reciprocate with his pure devotee. Yeah, I hope that answers. I don't know if anyone would like to add anything.
It's good that we feel like that. We have no right to approach Krishna. We've been authorized. We've been authorized to chant. I met one regular program in Dundee, and we were chanting. So one week we went to do the program, and I said, "So good job." He said, "Well, I have to stop chanting." Well, that says, "The chanting's offensive." So I thought, if I don't chant, I don't feel offensive.
Yeah, wow.
How do you practice makes perfect? So Prabhupada has authorized us to do this practice, and perhaps if humility we feel that we have no right to approach Krishna directly, but we're approaching directly because we're authorized.
Yeah, and actually that's very true. Yeah. We're going through Prabhupada, we're going through the parampara, so we're actually safe in that regard. Yeah,
Every service we're given every day has been authorized.
Is it authorized? Yeah.
It's not some speculative, independent thing.
Yeah.
So when I can do Prabhupada, which means Krishna accepting, you can be directed through the Prabhupada, through the devotees.
That's actually very true. Yeah. So actually, no, for sure. So even should make us feel a little bit much better, that it actually is authorized. Its instructions have been given by Prabhupada, and so Krishna won't reject it. And so that should even motivate us even more to kind of do as much more as we can, based on our authority, and not work based on speculation. Thank you. Actually, what in the article by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was actually intensifying the fact that we should be doing our services in consciousness of the spiritual master, so that we can be in line with Guru Parampara. So that's actually, and by doing that and by serving based on the instructions of Guru Parampara, then we can approach Krishna. Otherwise, it's impossible. So yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add? Or can probably finish there. I think it's 8:30 or 8:29. Granthaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.